Hi, I'm the man on the mic.
And I'm the guy on the bike.
And this is the Velo29 podcast. Good afternoon, Rich.
Afternoon, Joe. Hello.
I'm all right, mate. Yes, we are tackling Winnott's Pass, Holm Moss, Cat and Fiddle. These are the famous climbs, of course, of the Tour of the Peak. It's the Tour of the Peak episode. Woo-woo.
Yeah.
It's good, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, we've done a Tour of the Peak episode before, but that was last year.
It feels a bit strange. I keep having to remind myself because every event we've done, September, every event we've done, it's kind of been from scratch because of all of the different way we do things now. And the Tour of the Peak, it's like we've annualized, and it's kind of like dust off the things from last year. And
so this is the first event that you've already done within these restrictions. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Peak was the first event back in September last year.
That's right.
That's it was a mountain for us to climb, as everybody who listens regularly know. A mountain for the riders. It's 3 mountains for the riders to climb.
Three mountains for the riders to climb. Yeah.
But the Peak, it's one of our biggest events. It's a long way from home. All of those things. So it was super hard to make that the first event back. But it's actually the biggest. And I was trying to work it out, and it was actually impossible to see. But I think it is the biggest Sportive that will have taken place in the UK in terms of numbers of people riding it since probably the middle of 2019.
Wow. I'm having that because I'll be commentating and I can keep repeating that one. That's a good one.
You can, indeed.
I like that one. Yeah, brilliant. So for those people that kind of maybe they've signed up to this but haven't done Tour of the Peak before, what are they in store for? Give me the highlights, the things that we're going to expect.
It's not many Sportives hark back to a long time in history, and the Tour of the Peak is maybe even unique in that. So it goes back to the 70s when it started life as a professional road race.
Okay.
And if you look at the list of winners, it's mighty impressive. There's some Paul Currans, Malcolm Elliott's, Lily White, Walker, loads of. Some of our listeners won't know anything of that, but if you were a fan of cycling in the 80s and 90s, those were the guys.
Did you race in it at all, Rich?
No.
It'd gone by the time you were.
It fell foul of the modern risk assessment, traffic management, and not because it's a dangerous ride, but because it's enormous. Yeah. And to police a race you just wouldn't do it. Tour of Britain or something like that could logistically handle it, but anything smaller scale, just impossible. So it fell to the wayside, but was resurrected as one of the toughest Sportives in the calendar by Kilo to Go, and then we took it over.
Yeah, so Kilo to Go with the company, you've talked about this on the podcast before, with the company that you took on, or you took on their Sportive, should I say. But you were not overly keen, if I remember rightly, on the events that you hadn't kind of come up with in the first place. So was this one of those, or?
When we bought Kilo to Go, we got, I think, 12 events from them, and there was 2 standout events that were massive and we wanted to resurrect, and that was the Cat and the Peak. But and they're brilliant events, but the events I love, like the Daffodils of 2 weeks ago, for example, that 1 week ago, was that only the weekend?
It was only last weekend.
It's been a big week again.
We did the pod for the Daffodils last week, mate. Come on.
And another big week.
Get with the program. Come on.
But that was an event that I back in the day of when it was just me, I single-handedly. Yeah, exactly. And all of the events had personal reasons or personal links to me, just because of where I used to ride or that kind of thing. The Peak and the Cat didn't have that. And I had to sort of fall in love with the Peak, which I did last year.
Not before?
No, the last year was the 3rd time we've done it, 17, 18. 4th time we've done it, 17, 18, 19, and then 20 was the 4th time we've done it. And it was because it just went so well. It was a time when we got to see everybody again after the pandemic, and it was to have such a big event when there were times when we thought we may never have another event. Fell in love with the peak last year. So yeah, now it's one of ours properly now.
And we did a podcast live from the peak, if I remember rightly, last year, or we did recordings from it. And I remember rightly, you were like, is this going to work? You were so nervous about the fact that you were putting all these new systems in place and you just had no idea. And it must be fascinating already looking back and thinking, well, I've done that and we know that what we're doing is working.
I think that's what I'll remember the peak as, the event that got us back going again. And it standalone, it is a super tough ride. It's people who haven't ridden it before will just think, it's a bit longer, it's a bit hillier than other events that I've done. But make no mistake, on Sunday whoever you are in for a challenge, and the medium route is tough as well.
They are tough routes, but if I remember rightly, we had a guy come back in 5 hours or something last year. Was it something like that, or 6 hours?
Yeah,
so it was certainly,
I think it was 6 something, but that that's getting off at 20 miles an hour. And that I when I was at my fittest and was racing abroad, if I could do a hilly training ride at 20 mile an hour, I had to put my back into it. So clearly if that's a very fast time, and wouldn't expect that many people get under 7 hours.
I was going to say, what's the kind of average? We normally talk about between 7 and 8, don't we, for this?
Well, it's one of those, we do all our sort of bread and butter sportives, and we count down during the day, and it's usually like in the afternoon, so maybe from 11 o'clock onwards, you usually get about 100 riders an hour coming over the line. So you get to sort of 4 o'clock, you've got 100 people left out there. Yeah, that's good. I'm through the majority of it. To the peak, you get to 4 o'clock and there's maybe 500 people still to come in, something like that. And it feels like you've been busy. And
still nowhere near enough.
It's from our perspective, crikey me, it's a big day for us guys as well. It's a big day.
So what should people expect then? I mean, what would you be saying to somebody that's not done the peak, other than you can do it?
Don't underestimate it. If you're the kind with a lot of events, we engage a lot of people about training and things, and we say, it's 100 miles. If you've done 80, it's a big occasion. You'll struggle through it.
Yeah.
This isn't like that. If you've never ridden 120 miles and you've never done 15,000 feet of climbing all in one day, you're not going to get around. And without being a killjoy at this stage, probably seriously consider dropping to the medium route, because you can't be getting back at 8 o'clock in the morning having been riding for 12 hours. It's a dangerous position. Yeah. Sorry. Oh yeah. Well, maybe Monday morning.
That's what I was worried about. Yeah. There's no shame in doing the medium route, is there? I mean, it is the kind of ride that the medium route itself is one heck of a challenge.
It is. Yeah. It's a tough medium.
And how far is the medium route then?
Medium's 100k. So still long, still hilly. People on the long, you think about Winners Pass, Home Moss, Cat and Fiddle, and you're in your head before you're planning. You're not thinking about the riding between those three. But and there's a bit that you don't really think about, the sort of Glossop down to Macclesfield part, which is not really a hilly. It's not really. You just think, oh right, I'll just blast down that bit, stop at the feed, and then I'll go over the Cat and Fiddle. But that's not the case. That bit is really difficult, really hard. And so without wanting to talk people out, we love people who we love to support people to get through a really tough day. But there's a line that it's just suffering, and in reality, it means that the resource. We've kind of got a bubble of people that go around the huge course, and this is the same at every event. And as you progress around, that bubble grows. And we structure, there's not normally more than 4 hours between the first person and the last person at the end. But if you're 6 hours behind the first person, that presents us a problem, because we can't. get resource and vehicles to follow the person who's so far behind. So if you're not going to get back by 6 o'clock, then it's a sort of a responsibility to either get in the van or take a shortcut.
Now, we have talked a lot about what the pandemic's done and how it's affected people's fitness and that kind of stuff. I know you've done 3 or 4 Sportives now before this one. Have you found that people are over or underestimating where they're at, or is it still fairly kind of well managed?
I think we're seeing a lot of people who at the beginning, so when we went Manchester Sheffield at the beginning, were turning up, that was mid-April. They were turning up like the beginning of March. So they weren't event fit. And that's to be expected. And we're seeing, like, as we got to the daffodils last week, people were coming back saying, I can't believe how fast I went. It's like a racing circuit out there. And it's not. It's that they've got to be fitter than they were at the beginning of the season. So we are seeing that. But then the more seasoned rider who rides for all kinds of reasons and has prepared themselves like they normally would, regardless of not having any events to do. They're now at their peak and are rattling around the events at the speed that they would have done previous years.
One of the things I love about the peak is that it does attract people from all over the country. It does. It's one of those rides that somebody from Norfolk wants to come and do, or somebody from, you know what I mean? Because it is such a challenge and such an interesting ride, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I think we get a lot of people that we don't know from other events, and that's brilliant, of course. But yeah, they're ticking off those Fred Whitten, Yorkshire Beast, Tour of the Peak, and it's completely up there at Caledonia. And the peak is. Some people there's a couple of lads who do all of our events, and they came back, and he was probably having a bit of a bad day, and the wind was blowing in the wrong direction. But he said it's as tough as the Beast last year. It's not.
Because the Beast is just so much further.
It is, yeah. I said 15,000 feet of climbing. It's 12,000 feet of climbing. Actually, the Beast is 15,000 feet of climbing.
Right. Okay.
But still, that's huge. And if you were to,
folks, don't worry about it. It's 3,000 less, so don't worry about it.
Take back all of what we said. Yeah, everyone's now panicking and emailing to say, I want to drop to the medium. No, it's 12,000 feet. But climbing per mile, it's about the same as the Beast, and that's really difficult. But you've got less time at it, of course.
Yeah. So it sounds wonderful. What do people expect on the day? I'm presuming, you've got things in place still. We've still got to keep the kind of distances. You've got people booking in slots. How's that going?
Good. Yeah, everyone's been cooperative and helpful as always. Like with all our events, you'll get, I've just been preparing, you'll get a pre-event email from us on Friday. So we're sending it a little bit earlier with it being a big event. I'll send the same information again pre-event with text messages and post it to Facebook. Read it. There's a couple of things in there, such as the route to the headquarters. Every year at the peak, people come to the wrong end of the showground and it's locked. And they ring the emergency contact number. How do I get there? How do I get? That's an emergency contact number, mate. It's not for someone who's couldn't be bothered to read the very basic event manual. So things like that. Do take heed of the information we send you. We've been at it a long time, and we only put in things that you don't know. We can tell you, and it will go better if you know them. So have a look at that kind of thing. Turn up at the right time. Be well prepared. The weather, it's never rained at the peak, and it looks like late afternoon it might rain. And so prepare. So if you're planning
to be out there for a while, be ready for that.
Race capes and that kind of thing. Yeah, but all go so fast you're back by 3 o'clock and then you'll stay dry, but that might be a tall order.
and with regards to kind of what's allowed at the when people come back, what can they expect? Because obviously we normally have a bit of a festival vibe, and not all of that can happen. But what have you got planned?
As long as people keep the distance, it's completely outdoors, so we're doing as much as we can, and that is we're going to have Giro d'Italia on our big screen. Sunday's a big day in the race, so welcome to sit around and enjoy that with us. You get a hot sausage sandwich at the finish. You get a little bottle of beer, and I've even got the trouble of buying a freezer so that it's a little bit colder for you, because I know you'll appreciate that after such a long day. Some chairs that spread out. I don't have 900 chairs for if everybody wants to sit down for several hours. So there's a pizza van there as well, and you can take a note and text him in advance. So if you're an hour from the finish, you're just about to go up the Cat and Fiddle, drop him a text and order your pizza. Yeah, that'll be cool. And so, yeah, by all means, enjoy the afternoon and stay with us. But just not, if you feel it getting a bit busy, you've been there for an hour, then give someone else a seat.
Brilliant. Well, anything else to add on what you?
Well, I think we'll do a bit of live content for next week's podcast, won't we? From the showground, as we're going to see each other for the first time since September, then, I think.
Yeah, it was the last week. Yeah.
But then I'm going to see each other 3 times in the next 4 weeks. So, yeah.
Yes, because we've got 3 days in Yorkshire, which is the following weekend.
Super excited about that.
And then the Yorkshire Beast.
Yeah, mega excited about the Beast as well.
A few weeks after that, fantastic.
Yeah, still places in both those events. Actually, you'll need to get in, if you're listening. And we've had a few people drop out of the 3 days in Yorkshire, which is, I don't know why. Probably they haven't done any training. So it's limited to 120. So if you'll have to email me, and we'll get you a place. But I think I've got 4 places left in that, and it's an awesome event. I think in years to come, that's going to be another massive, like the Beast is. It's going to be massive. That. So yeah,
and we're going to do a podcast from there as well, I think. So
podcast live, yeah. So you and I are going to sit next to
live.
We're going to sit next to each other
in the same room. It'll be the first podcast that we do where we're actually in the same place.
Well, on it, yeah. And we'll be fighting off the 1 or 2 people who are watching us.
That many?
Yeah. Well, there's a bar, so we might get some abuse as well.
Oh, mate, I'll be at the bar, mate. You can do the podcast. Brilliant stuff. All right. Well, thanks, Rich.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, everybody.
And we'll speak to you soon.
Speak to you all soon.